and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today we are going to be filming the I Stand With Trans Kids book tag. I was tagged in this by Scott and Nell over at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, but the original tag was created by Leo Bancroft, and I will link everybody in the description down below. I can't talk today. It's going to be one of the ones because I was running early at work today again, and so, you know, not had much sleep, can't talk, tongue is getting mangled, but I'm on the hot chocolate to try and give me a sugar boost, so that's fun. So by the end of this video I could actually be hyper, we'll see. So first up, I'm going to tag Ange from Angie's Book Chat, I'm going to tag Jess from Lady Lovestead Reads, and I'm going to tag Lottie from Lottie's Library. So I have quite a lot of books that I want to talk about here, and they are either books that I own that are on my physical TBR that I can't wait to read, or they are books that are currently on my wish list that I want to purchase and read. So first up is An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. We follow our main character Asta, who is non-binary, and it's about them living on this ship trying to navigate both their queerness and their gender and their race, and it just sounds like it could be really interesting. This was River Solomon's debut novel as well. I always find it really interesting to read somebody's debut novel. It's like you sort of get a wee taste for whether or not you're going to like them as an author or no. I mean, that is literally what you get anytime you ever read any book by any author, but this one looks really good and it's been on my wish list for a wee while. And then Master of One by Jada Jones and Danny Bennett. I actually got this in a fairy loot box many moons ago, still haven't read it. So this is sort of a wee ragtag gang who all get together to pull off a heist, and no all is as it seems. They are tracking down fae relics to, I don't know, get a payout. And there's a bit of a twist, but there are transgender and non-binary characters in here, so I can't wait to check that one out. And then there's Pet by Akwaeke Amaze. I've never read an Akwaeke Amaze yet, and I feel like I am like the last person on BookTube ever to have no read an Akwaeke Amaze book, because I know that they get so much hype, but here I am, about a bajillion years late to the party, as always, and I can't actually remember who recommended this one to me. That's gonna annoy me. But actually, I think it was Sylvie at TBR Diaries. I think she read it and really enjoyed it, and I was like, oh, that sounds quite interesting. So that's been on my radar for a wee while. I'll have that and the second one on my wish list to get round to at some point also. Obviously the Akwaeke Amaze book that I decide to read is the first in a series, like, I'm true to brand if nothing else. And then there's Manhunt by Gretchen Filkin Martin, and Kevy, VC Kevy, has been raving about this book, and it just looks absolutely amazing. It's horror, and I believe it's sort of like dystopian survival horror, where people are chapping off bows, which just sounds great, doesn't it? Let's be honest. So I'm really excited to get around to this one eventually at some point, because I'm terrible. And then there's a graphic novel I have on my wish list called On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden, and it just looks so lovely. It was actually Chloe from Persistent Bookworm that spoke about this one on her channel, and it just caught my eye because it looked absolutely delightful and brilliantly queer. And I mean, what more could you want for a graphic novel? So all of those sound absolutely brilliant, they all sound really up my street, and sort of feel like a mix of the genres that I like to read. So hopefully I will get some of these shortly and actually get round to reading them. So one of my favourite books that I read last year was In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland, and this features some trans and non-binary characters as well as every other character under the queer umbrella. It's just such an amazing book. It is a dark fantasy novel and it's about blood mages and royal family lines, all that kind of drama and political delight, which is brilliant. But A.M. Strickland just manages to create this phenomenal wee world where everybody can be who they want to be. It isn't questioned or judged or even a big deal, really. It is just, it is what it is, which is ideally where everybody would like to get to in real life, I'm sure. Sad that we need to go to fantasy novels for that level of escape, but there we go. And it was just brilliant, done in a really phenomenal way, where it doesn't need to be a big somebody's coming out or you know, like somebody asking particular questions. It's just portrayed exactly what it is on the page, and there are no if, buts or maybes about it, and I just thought that it was brilliant. It was one of my favourite books that I read last year, and it was just great. Please read it. I watch a lot of Drag Race and also Dragula, which I love. Dragula is like the horror equivalent of Drag Race, which is a bit of me. And so I watch a lot of them that obviously have trans and non-binary performers in them, and it's great to hear sort of feel like they are real life experiences. That's one of the bits of Drag Race that I really enjoy. I mean, obviously the makeup is absolutely class, let's no lie, but I do like just sort of hearing it for the horse's mouth, and I really like the wee scenes in the workroom when they're all like getting ready and they're having like emotional heart-to-hearts, because I think that sometimes they have really interesting conversations and really important conversations. It's not always just a poor me. You know, sometimes they touch on things that are absolutely fantastic. Like in one of the, I can't remember if it was 2 seasons ago now, because they've stopped showing it in the UK unless you pay for another subscription service, and I haven't paid for that and therefore I haven't caught up. But I can't remember if it was the UK one or if it was the American one, but there was like sort of a few older drag queens on it and some of the younger drag queens on it, and one of the younger drag queens was non-binary, and there was a really important conversation of the older drag queens being like, right, we don't know enough, so like going to fill us in on your pronouns so that we don't get it wrong. And like there was a real learning moment there, which I thought was really important, and I think that it was really good that it showed that in a safe queer space, because I think that people are so afraid of getting it wrong these days that they didn't ask the question, and you know, we need to and I think that that just showed like that it doesn't need to be a certain type of person to ask the question, and it's not just assumed that everybody's knowledge level is the same. But if you're kind and you're considerate and you're coming from a place of love, there can be a space there for really great conversations and education, which is, you know, how as a society we all move forward and progress. So I thought that was really good, and I felt like it was really powerful that they had showed that. So I watch a lot of that. I also really enjoy Orange is the New Black, or I did when it was on. It is finished now, which features the absolutely stunning Laverne Cox, who is a transgender actress, and she plays her character who is transgender, and we get to sort of see her entire story throughout it all, like from her home life and how it affected her when she was in prison to who she is now as a really strong, confident and capable woman. And I just, so again, like I know she's in prison, right, but it was done in such a brilliant way that you couldn't no feel for her, and I felt like they told the story really, really well. So they would be my recommendations. A book that was a journey for me recently was actually The Transition Baby by Tory Peters. So I buddy read this with Kevy from Say Kevy, and we were like sending each other essays at the end of every chapter. It just raised so many amazing discussion points, and I feel like it was a bit of a journey for us both. She says I was sort of feel like her emotional support while she was reading it, because she was obviously quite nervous going into it with the subject matter and she wasn't too sure how she would find it. and we just had some brilliant conversations about our experiences as women, about Kevy's particular experience as a trans woman, our experiences being queer, and it was really brilliant, and I'm so glad that I got to read it with her, because it was just such a unique and brilliant experience to share with her. And it was interesting that we had different points on some things, and like we sort of says to each other at some points, like, do you know how you're being a wee bit sensitive? Do you know how you're being a wee bit sensitive? And it was brilliant. It was really interesting, and we thoroughly enjoyed the experience. But it was a real journey for me, because I would class myself as somebody who was really clued up and proactive about trans rights and, you know, that person's journey. But reading this book, there was just so many times where I was like, didn't even think of that. Whoa, like, I wouldn't have even thought of that, and like, of course that happens, why have I no thought about this? And so it was a real journey for me, realising that maybe I didn't know everything that I thought that I did, and that there was still some education there that I could do for myself to become a better trans ally. And so that book was a real journey for me, and a journey that I really appreciated and loved. It was a phenomenal book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So last year I read House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and it was one of my favourite books for last year also. It just had such a lovely message, and again it features a whole host of queer characters written phenomenally, and this book just hit different. I really took such a strong positive message away from it. I am the type of person that I will let you have a different opinion with me on certain things, and then I have a line, and if we disagree on opinions below that line, then I'm just going to come for you, and I'm probably going to be pretty angry, and I'm probably going to have a fair few assumptions about that, what that means for you as a person, and I can be quite bad for it sometimes, and it comes to a place of just, you know, fighting for rights, and I get my back up sometimes, and it's really difficult for me to remember that we need that educational safe space piece before I'm like, see you. And that book, that's what I took away from that book, was actually we get on a lot better when we approach things with love and kindness and compassion, as opposed to anger and hate. And even if somebody is angry and hateful towards you, like, you don't need to respond that way. You can't control how somebody else reacts to you, but you can control how you can react to their reaction. And that was a big thing that I had took away from House in the Cerulean Sea. I thought that it had a really strong, lovely message in it, and it's really stopped and made me think about the way that I handle situations like that going forward. You know, if somebody isn't the best ally that they can be, it doesn't mean they're a total fucking idiot and they're no bothered their arse. It could just be it hasn't actually affected them until now in their life, and something has changed, and now they are seeking answers or seeking support for whatever reason, and it doesn't automatically mean that they are a horrible bigot, which was total news to me, let me tell you. But that book was brilliant. It really taught me a lot about myself and the way that I react in certain situations, and that sometimes you can just stand back, listen, and then you can do that whole education piece. It usually involves food, obviously. So I really like to cook, and I really like to bake, and when like my mental health is totally in the bucket, I will just have a baking day, and I will put on music or audiobooks, and I will just bake a whole host of goodies, and just spend the entire day cooking or baking, and that always sort of centres me a wee bit. It's something that I really enjoy. Or I will just veg you in the bath for hours, literal hours, until I'm like a wee dried up raisin of a human, and I come out of the bath looking like I'm 80-year-old, and Simon gets a fright when he sees me, but that always seems to hit the spot and make me feel a wee bit better as well. literally like any heavy metal makes me feel my oats good and proper. Anything by Disturbed, oh specifically Down With The Sickness, right, no, we've settled it, Down With The Sickness by Disturbed, that is like my entrance, my walk on music. When I used to have to like go to meetings and stuff for work and present to like all the store managers, I still get nervous doing that, and I've done it for years and years, and so I'd like put on some like hype music, and it would usually be Disturbed, or it would be Soil, occasionally though RuPaul, Sissy That Walk, just like bucks your confidence up like nothing else. I don't want to sound soppy, right, but probably Simon, because we are forever challenging each other's opinions on literally anything. Like, oh, I fancy pizza for dinner the night. Oh, really, do you? Aye, and why would that be? Like, and we just do this constantly. Like, we'll have times where we can't sleep at night and we just lie in bed and talk like utter garbage, and then like it sometimes gets into like really intelligent philosophical stuff. But Simon's favourite thing to do in any given situation is to play devil's advocate. And so if you have an opinion, you'll be like, but why? And you'll be like, da da da, but why? Da da da, but why? Like a 5-year-old, and then after he's drilled you down with all his but whys and he's made you really question why you believe this, he'll go, but just being devil's advocate, and then like he'll put another perspective across to try and make you think about it that way. And we do that for everything, like politics, religion, science, book opinions, anything. And so I feel like we are constantly just pushing each other and challenging each other's opinions, and like that's not to say that in the end we always end up agreeing. We have a lot of similar opinions on a lot of things, but there are some things that me and Simon just fundamentally disagree on, and we'll never get the other person to come around, and that's not really even the aim, but it's just sort of feel like the conversation about why we believe that and maybe the other person doesn't, like is just really interesting. So we do that a lot, so probably him. I know that Scott and Nell already shouted out Kevie from Say Kevie as a trans booktuber, but I'm going to shout it out as a trans author because she recently just released her first short story in her Wilhelmina Murder series called Chicago Beauty, which I read and reviewed on the channel, and it was phenomenal, so definitely check that out if you're all about the cosy mystery with undertones of humour vibes. It was great. And I would also like to shout out Katie over at Introverted Reader, who is a non-binary booktuber, and they're Irish. Absolutely hysterical. Like, you will never know be laughing at a video. Total dafty, but brilliant. And reads a lot of middle grade graphic novels, YA fantasy, so if any of that is your jam, go check them out. So there's two organisations that run from Glasgow that I would like to talk about. And so we have LGBT Youth, and they specifically have meetup groups and support available for people who identify as trans, non-binary, or anybody who is questioning their gender, and they have meetups every single week so that you can go along and you can meet other people who are in a similar situation to yourself. And they also then do individual counselling as well if you wouldn't feel comfortable doing that in a group environment. And I just think that that's absolutely brilliant for a community aspect as well. I just think it's so powerful to see and meet other people who are going through similar things and feeling similar feelings, because I think that a lot of this can feel very isolating, and so they give people an opportunity to meet like-minded people, and this particular one is aged from 16 to 25. And then I'd also like to shout out the Equality Network, which is a Scottish based charity, and they really deal with law and your rights, and so I think it's brilliant that they have so many resources available on their website. If you feel like you are being discriminated against in your employment, if you are not too sure where you stand legally in terms of certain situations, like due to your gender identity or due to your sexuality, then you can go on and you can check out their website, and they have it like for different categories, and there's so many different categories, so you can find maybe a specific situation. But they also have helplines available, which is brilliant as well, so you can talk to somebody who's maybe a wee bit more clued up on the legality side of things. And I just think that that's really powerful, because I think that knowledge is power, and we should be empowering people to know exactly what their rights are and where the law stands when it comes to them as a person. And so I think that it's really good that people have access to all that information, and it means it would maybe make them feel more confident, more comfortable going into certain employment situations, for example, if they know that they've got access to all these resources, so that if there's anything that's making them feel a wee bit uncomfortable and they're not quite sure what route to go down, all that information's available for them. But the Equality Network do a lot more than that. They also have counselling lines available if you want to talk to someone. They also again have one-to-one counselling, and they also have their own meetup group as well. And that meetup group, there's a couple of different ones. There's specific meetup groups for people who are under the age of 20, who are identifying as trans or non-binary, and you can go along with just you yourself. You can take your parents if you're younger, and they have a wee bit of support there for the parents as well, which I think is brilliant, and probably a wee bit of an education piece there as well. And then they have a group that is just for a wider age range than the other one that I have mentioned. So they're both absolutely brilliant resources and great charities, and I would recommend anybody who would need them to check them out, and I will leave all their information linked down below as well. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you are reading at the moment, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!